Welcome to the Learn, Grow, Teach, Parent podcast. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Joy Galliford. She is an educator, early childhood music educator. She's the president of Friends of South Florida Music. It's wonderful. We have a history together, and I'm looking forward to this interview very much. How are you doing, Dr. Joy?
I'm great, Mark. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this and to have a time of conversation with you and all of our listeners and followers.
Absolutely. I mean, full disclosure, we've known each other for what seems like a lifetime, but it's probably closer to 17 years. Around 4 years ago, Dr. Joy asked me if I would be interested in teaching for the foundation. So I'm proud to not only know Dr. Joy, but to work with Dr. Joy. And her training program made me an excellent music educator. And I'm looking forward to what you can show our guests is this wonderful foundation. In fact, why don't you take a minute and just tell us a little bit about the foundation and then a little bit about yourself.
Well, Friends of South Florida Music was incepted in 2016 with the purpose of providing quality music education to children in underserved areas of South Florida who would not otherwise have that opportunity. We were able to secure funding and our first grant to be able to provide 97 children with this experience, including their needed musical instruments in 2017. And in 2022-23, we have grown to over 1,352 children who have received weekly music education classes in 11 schools located in poverty areas of South Florida. So it's quite a treasure to be able to tell you that today, that in really 5 years, we were able to do that, grow that exponentially. As far as for me personally, I am one of 4 children born to Luna and Paul Woodrow Strasser. I grew up in a very small town in West Virginia. And my story is long before I was born, my mother was playing the piano and singing with my 2 sisters and brother and my father, who played mandolin, in our house. She was a product of family music in a home to Henry and Sophie Friend, who lived in Friendsville, Maryland. Kind of sounds like Dr. Seuss book, doesn't it?
Yes.
And music has been a part of my life long before I was born. So my mother was actually providing stimulation for me. Now that we know 24 weeks in utero, children's auditory system is fully functioning. And so she was my first concert hall. And I grew up in a household that loved music, provided weekly music sessions at home. Then I decided, as I watched these 42 years go by for me as an educator, because I started teaching piano when I was 13 in my hometown. There wasn't a piano teacher, but I was able to teach, and there was a need, and I had a beautiful piano in a store in Morgantown that I really would like to have had in my house. And my father told me that if I wanted that piano, I could work to receive half of the money and he would pay the other half. So I had to figure out a way to get some income. Teaching seemed to be a very easy thing. So I did that for adults and children. I got to purchase that piano. And I decided, as I've gone through this career, that if I was ever able to establish a foundation for children who would not have this opportunity otherwise, I would like to call it the Friends of something, in honor and respect and gratitude for my grandparents and my mother, as well as my father. So this organization is called Friends of South Florida Music. And Mark, you and your family have been one of my musical friends, you're right, for over 18 years. So it just continues to amaze me at how powerful this journey has been and continues to be.
I mean, it's clear that destiny brought you to music or family brought you to music, and that it's passionate, it comes from the heart, and that
Mm.
your desire to help children through music
Mhm.
is an emotional journey for you. But I know for a fact that you developed this program yourself. There was a rigorous testing that was involved. There were many, many hours of defining the program so that it would be developmentally meaningful, not just
Mhm.
emotionally meaningful. I'm not downplaying the emotions because clearly the foundation does so much to bring music to children that do not have that opportunity. But developmentally, it really does something special. Do you mind telling our listeners a little bit about how you got the idea to develop the program this way, and how you were able to do this, as an evidence-based program?
Sure. Um, a curriculum such as what we are teaching in this foundation comes through longitudinal test of time. And we are putting into implementation a curriculum that strengthens the 6 developmental domains for young children and also older children. And when I say that, we're talking about gross motor, fine motor, cognitive, self-help, social, emotional, and listening skills. Those developmental domains are at the foundation of all learning. Gross motor contributes to fine motor. Cognitive, language, all of that you develop and then becomes social emotional. How you are able to express yourself. Are you a closed person, an open person? What are you doing physically through the gross motor to be able to experience that and become more of an open person? Self-help skills, those are things that children should know all the time. Clean up, taking out, putting things back, picking up your fork, folding your napkin, all of those kinds of things, tying your shoe, putting on your shorts. All of these kinds of self-help skills are critical to young children in building independence. So those 6 developmental domains are at the crux of this curriculum and helping children to move through gross motor, which leads to fine motor. And then the songs and the rhymes that help us to be able to build cognitive function, the listening ability, listening to musical cues or just sounds in the music to know how to transition next so that we're not repeating things. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday and I said, somewhere down the road, these toddlers and 3-year-olds are going to be taking a test and someone's going to be reading the question to them and they're not going to repeat it 5 or 6 times. So what are we doing now to help them capture the language or what we're saying so that they are better listeners? And everybody's, oh my, because really today we are challenged in being able to listen and to be engaged because things are happening so fast around us and children are receiving technology in their world much faster. So think about if you're holding your phone up in front of you, even you and I, and we're on Instagram or Facebook, and we just captivate for a moment the image that's there, but that's not the one we want. We swipe this. We just go in this motion. Imagine giving those devices, and we do, to young children, and they can just swipe or swipe or swipe, and it's gone and on to the next thing. It doesn't really help us to strengthen what you and I are having right now with contact. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. Your ears are headed in the direction that they were made to be to capture sound. And we're able to have this interaction and engaged conversation. That's not how things go typically because we're very distracted. We're busy. Things are moving very fast. And even when we talk to each other at home, my question to parents is always, are you looking at each other? Have you put down your devices, and do you have a time where you just say, hey, how are you feeling today? What was great about your day? Can you give me 2 examples? I really want to hear your voice telling me that. So the curriculum works through what are the animals' voices, because everybody has a voice, and how do those things work together then in a larger thing called a song. And then can we use instruments with that song, or can we use scarves? So we keep layering and scaffolding, as Vygotsky has taught us to be able to do, to make those things more powerful and enriching for children of all abilities and all ages.
That's wonderful. It is, I'm a fan, and I know, as you mentioned before, my family's closely involved. I mean, my children both started your classes when they were 6 months old. I mean, Juliet, my youngest, was in utero, as you say, listening to the class that her sister was going through, and it has been a journey where all of these very, very intentional things
Mm-hmm.
contributed to not just their musical development, but their own development. I mean, these are children that I see all of these children paying attention. That's really an underrated uh, prescription for learning. A lot of times, children simply they can't follow what's going on in a classroom. As they get older, it doesn't get any easier to follow.
Correct.
So at the baseline, what you've done is you've given them a reason to pay attention that's
Mm-hmm.
fun, that's easy, but that is extremely powerful, because from that, some of these other cognitive processes and some of these motor skills can work together to create a situation where they're better in the classroom. That
Correct.
classroom now becomes a place that they want to be, and they
Mm-hmm.
intentionally learn. I mean, you've done a fantastic job explaining how this works with children. What has been your experience in the last 5 years of working with the foundation? What have you seen it do to the community?
Well, that's a great question, Mark. First of all, I want to just go back and say intentional. I Teachers need to teach with intentionality. Purpose. You could say purpose. That's so powerful in itself. And what we do in our craft, if we are doing it because we truly love teaching, is with great intentionality. Not that we have to explain to everybody what we're doing, but we know that there's 20 layers of intentionality underneath of one simple activity, and getting people to begin to peel that away little by little. And I do believe that that's part of what we have been able to see in the lives of not only the children, but the teachers and the staff and the donors of what we are doing. It takes time to build this type of work. Our first grant award was from the Key Biscayne Community Foundation. And I want to say thank you to the Key Biscayne Community Foundation for believing in what we were about to provide and supporting us as we began the first year of 2017. Thank you, and a big shout out to them. They have continued to be our supporters, along with many other organizations in Miami and Dade County, because they believe in the power of this type of community work for children and adults and the community. I do know that as we are able to sit side by side with these teachers in the classrooms, they are able to begin to understand more about what they can do in their room simply by using music. Or the other thing is by watching how we interact with them and their children. We're an on-site training foundation. We're one of the only foundations that these schools will have come into their doors and sit with them on a weekly basis. One of the schools that I go to and have been going to since 2020 I have now become the most consistent teacher in the school because I go every week and I have not stopped because that's my school. Those children have known me since they were babies. They know my name. They love for me to come. We are committed. You have schools that are your schools. I say that with great honor. They are your schools. Those teachers know that you are coming weekly. They know that you know their children's names. They know that you care about them. So we're not only showing what we can do musically, but we're showing how to build community. That is another whole layer of what we do, just simply by being committed to fulfill our weekly classes for each of the sites. Now, if somebody gets sick, that's another thing. But when I say that I am the teacher that has been the consistent one of the 10% that has been consistent for the last 3 years, that's something to think about. That's
That
how
is
great the turnover is at this current time in early childhood classes in that one category. Public schools is another piece that we provide. And again, there has been great turnover since 2020 in that area as well. But I'm speaking personally to the piece that is the birth through 6 years old in those poverty areas of South Florida.
definitely, this is one of the topics you're touching on now, is how the foundation, through just giving the normal classes, a byproduct of that is that the teachers are receiving a form of musical training simply because of the way it's taught. There's a heavy involvement. It's not like the teacher steps out of the room and we're
Correct.
doing the classes. The teachers are in the class. In many instances, they're part of the all the movements, everything that's being done. They learn it, they do it. It's a teacher training. But beyond that, I know that through your own personal donations and expertise, you've been able to work with early start programs. And can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what you do as a teacher trainer?
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to say is that there will never be a shortage of children to reach, regardless of where you are in the world. So we don't have to be afraid of sharing our knowledge or our time to try to help others learn about what we do, because we have a plethora of children who need what we provide. Every single one of them. They need the chance to have what I had growing up, but don't know that that's available to them or their teachers. I've been privileged to be able to be a consultant for the United Way organization of Miami. And they have an incredible grant that they go out and provide classrooms in centers throughout Miami Dade. They work hands-on with these centers if they sign up to be a part of this project, which is a process because they have to be vetted and show that they're going to do what is expected as the protocol of the grant. They are able to receive furniture and supplies that they would not be, and training that they would not be able to afford otherwise, because we're talking about the workers that probably receive $10 an hour and start with 45 hours of CEU credit certification in order to be able to continue their work and get further certification. They're not degreed. They're good souls who are looking for employment in their community, probably, so that they don't have to drive. They can ride a bus or maybe be dropped off. So those are the people that we're sitting side by side. And those are the people that I am able to provide overall training for the coaches of the United Way who go out and service those schools. Then they have me be a 3-hour like aerobic workout for the teachers that come to this training to help them see what it's about and get them to laugh like children and enjoy scarves. Maybe they've never had the opportunity to do that. And they feel better when they get some of this going because their work is very challenging. I could go into that, but I won't. Head Start is another organization that I am honored to be a trainer for. They contract me to go to their teacher trainings and go visit their classrooms for the grant that they have received here in Miami Dade. And we are able to provide training for them on how to develop better skills at implementing music into their classrooms. And the music that we implement is not to be used for nap time, for just random when you're coming into the classroom. Our songs are to be used for a specific time in the day so that they are able to be engaged like you and I are at the moment, not just filler of sound in the room, because ours is extremely intentional. So that's one of the things. You can have nap time music for soothing and calming. That's not our music for this curriculum. Ours is to be engaged and intentionally with a purpose, moving or shaking or learning words to build those 6 developmental domains.
I tell you something, you're touching on a very interesting topic, which is everyone always says teachers are underpaid. But these young children walk into rooms where underpaid is almost a joke. They're almost not paid. They're practically volunteers. And of course, these teachers don't have the skill sets to command maybe a greater salary. But through the development of learning and this enrichment program for them, they build a skill that is extremely necessary. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it in a fashion that separates and isolates it as a skill set. It is a skill to teach music intentionally. Anyone can put on a record and dance and call mm-hmm. that music for the classroom. And of course, that has its purpose. Like you say, the ability for someone to be able to take the program and learn how to teach it, formally be unskilled and then become highly skilled in this. I mean, that is a big impact to the community because you and I may be teaching 1,300, 1,400 children in the classrooms, but these other teachers represent a much bigger student population, and they're receiving it as well, which brings me to my next question. I know that you're funding this primarily through grants, some very great personal donations. You're winning awards and people that want to support the program. But if you're sitting in front of like this, our audience, and saying, why should they be supporting something like Friends of South Florida Music? What is it about their money that makes such an impact with these children to help us grow?
To help us grow. We have a waiting list of schools who would like for us to come and provide this program for their children. I'm honored to say that. Word has gotten out that this is a value. We are people of integrity, and we are being sought by other schools to come because we bridge a gap that is not being met or can be met at the current time in our educational process. And for that reason, there is a great need. We do not commit to go to a new school unless we have the funding to be able to provide the education for the entire calendar year. It's very important for me. Disappointment is in the shadow of these children's lives that we go to all the time. Disappointment that somebody isn't there that was there in their home yesterday. Disappointment that they maybe don't have all the food they would like to eat that they were promised, or a new gift to be given. So I would never want to commit to something and bring disappointment to either the school or the children or our donors, because that's not what we do. What can you be assured of? I can assure you, which being able to tell you this is very liberating for me, that if you want to be a donor and give specifically to children, I will tell you that 100% of your donation will go back to those children. We have positioned ourselves in a way so that insurance, cost for website, those kinds of things are covered in the current grants that we are writing, so that donors can know that their money, which is supposed to be given to benefit children, definitely does. And after this many years of doing this work and having worked for many organizations and been a lot in development for all of the places that I have worked, I have a great board that is fully committed to fulfilling that. We've talked about that before they became board members. They're all donors themselves. My teachers are all donors. I'm a donor. We all give of our talent to go and serve, and our passion to be with these children day in, and week out. And then we also contribute. And I don't force that upon anybody, but they give because they love to give generously. There's something really wonderful about that. You give not in expectation, but you give because you want to give and help children to thrive. They truly are the building of tomorrow, and they deserve to have this type of development. You know, when you think about brain research, a child's greatest or the most rapid period of brain development is birth to 1. And the next highest period is 1 to 3. The third is 3 to 5. The next one is 5 to 8. And then plasticity happens in the brain. The earlier we can start with these children in these areas where the school opens at 6:30 in the morning and closes at 6 p.m. And we help this staff to get better at how they're implementing curriculum and working with these children, and strategies when things don't go well. How do we talk to children? Do I grab them? What do I do? Eye contact, these things. The more we can do that with these centers in these areas, I know that we are working to building a stronger community from the very beginning, because that's where it starts. So that's what I say to all people who are listening, to all of the people who are listening, who are looking for a place. Sorry, I get a little tender talking about this because it's very dear to my heart. If you think, wow, how can that be? Send an email to info@friendsofsfm.org and ask to come with us. I will take you with us on any given day, and you can go and be a guest of ours to go see. We would love to have you. Or there are events coming up for us that you can come and participate and see just what happens. We just delivered 180 backpacks to children in July, so that when they came to school to get their paperwork ready, they could have a backpack full of supplies. Why is that important? Some of them would not be able to have that. So I'll tell you a story. I went to Arcola Lake Elementary, one of my favorite places to go and work with Principal Yolanda Ellis. That staff is amazing, and that's my Tuesday school. I claim them for mine. Been there for a long time. I went with another family member of our group, and we went and delivered 100 backpacks. The day we pulled into the parking lot, Principal Ellis had managed to have the medical bus in her parking lot so that children could come get the needed physical immunizations right in their parking lot. I had no idea. So we unloaded all of the backpacks and put them in one room, beautifully organized. Then, as the children came out of the bus, she took them to the room and let them pick their backpack to start the school year with. What a great treat for going through that medical bus, right? That's not a fun place for anybody. I mean, who wants to do that? And then they exit with their mother or their father, and they come in and they get that type of a gift to say, we want to help you start with success. I didn't plan any of that. It just happens. And those are the kinds of things, a lot of times, that just happen for us because children are at the center of what we do for all of the people that are involved. I've been doing this for a long time, and people who know me know that this is who I am.
Absolutely. This is who you are. This is, like I said, you are deeply emotionally attached to this project. But you come at it from a very well prepared, from a extremely professional, and the marriage of the compassion with the intentionality of what you're doing is such a recipe for success. I mean, one of the taglines that the foundation has is, music education for children of all abilities. And this is very important because we go out and we teach, and a good portion, at least 40% of our student population are children that are on the autistic spectrum, the ASD, autistic spectrum disorder. And in many instances, these children are way behind their contemporaries when it comes to regular education. However, when we do these programs with these children, and they're able to follow along, and they are able to follow along, the impact is extremely evident. Anyone watching looks at it and says, they're indistinguishable. I don't care what ability they walked into the room with. During that class, their developmental progress is very level.
Correct.
And this is because of the intention, and because there's a blind eye to the student in front of us in regards to whether or not they will succeed in the class. There's only, here's the curriculum, follow along, and if they're able to, as they're able to, the impact is equal. And this is a big leveling factor, whether they're underserved, they come from a community that doesn't have the ability to give their children, the parents don't have the ability to give the children everything they want. And there are some parents who have the ability, yet they can't reach their own children because of these developmental challenges. And yet, in the process of providing this class, we've unlocked what I consider to be an enormous secret, which is, in some cases, in some instances, we're all able to perform and be equal. And that equality of opportunity is what gives you the outcome. So, of course, we want people to donate and send this out all over the county, send it out all over the world. It's a beautiful thing that's happening. You're a unique person, Dr. Joy. And
thank you.
Oh, yeah, we know this is true. In fact, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Like, when did you think about coming up with a curriculum like this? What happened in your professional development that took you down this path?
Well, I've done many things in my life educationally. I've been able to be a Miami Dade public school teacher. I've been in gang ministry for 6 years in Little Havana here in Miami, watching young children of a very young age looking for a family, a void that was in their life. Continued my education and got a doctorate degree. And through that work, before that, just going into these communities, I think really becoming very attentive to that when I was in Shenandoah Park and Jose Marti areas and watching what goes on in the family units that were there and the lack of things that were there for the children, as well as there's a disability huge center there and a couple of them for children. And we went and did some projects for them. And, you begin to just think about how some people can naturally pay for these types of classes, as you did. You enrolled through to a music class to attend a parent music class to go with your child. But how do we reach the ones in the community who are not going to even know that they should seek that out? And there's lots of circumstances why that happens. And so it really facilitated a curiosity for me of how am I going to be able to do that and make an impact for those children using music as the key. I was on track to become a surgeon. I had great dexterity with my hands. In the time that I went to school for a bachelor's degree, you took tests and all these things. And so I was fortunate enough to be a valedictorian. And I thought I was very interested in medicine. And so I started with school and classes, and I really missed the music piece, which had been a part. It was a void for me. And thinking about what I was going to attempt to do, I thought, I'm going to be in school for a very long time. And how am I going to have a family? I don't sleep much. I just think. So I changed paths. And after doing this and working in the Haitian community and watching those mamas with their babies and being able to go out and do work in there, I'll never forget, I was at a school piloting curriculum here in Miami on 95, up in the Haitian community on 79th Street. And I pulled into the school and I was unloading my car, as I always did. And it was right after the devastating earthquake in Haiti. And children were being brought to relatives here in Miami. And the school was bursting with the director there is an incredible lady, Jennifer Bonet. And she was accepting people. And the counselor that was there at the time said, we're just in trauma. We're in trauma. So I knew that every week I had to go to that school, if not for the children, for the teachers, because I was a new face and I was 30 minutes and they didn't have to think. They could just dance. I was therapy for them. I truly was therapy. And one morning I was unloading my car and I heard this voice, this little girl yell, "Dr. Joy." And her mother quickly said, "Who are you talking to?" And she said, "Well, that's the doctor that comes to our school and helps us to feel better every week. And her name is Dr. Joy." And people forever say, "I'm just going to call you Joy." And I've said, no, you're going to call me Dr. Joy, because even a child, small child in Haiti, little Haiti, began to understand very early that I was a doctor who came to them and helped them to feel better. So no, you're not just going to call me Joy. I'm Dr. Joy. And you really, with the name Joy, my parents gave me that name, but you have to really live up to that name because you can't be Dr. Grumpy or something, right? I mean, I guess you could. But so anyway, I forever, that day has been forever etched in my life. And so you think about what else can you do? How can you make this expand, exponentially? Because all of these children deserve to have this, and it can be done. It's so affordable. It just takes people like my board, people like our investors, the Kirk Foundation, the Miami Foundation, Music Access Miami, Carrie Meek Foundation. They helped us last year to start a new school in Florida City. The Despirito Foundation, the Symphonettes from Ransom School. Those young ladies got together and they were helping us to be able to do something different, which was just amazing. The Children's Trust is going to be helping us this year. The Kitchens Family Foundation and the Florida Department of Cultural Affairs. And let me just give another shout out to the Miami Dade Community Cultural Affairs. If you want to know in Miami Dade County where some of your taxpayer dollars go to, we're one of those. Through their efforts and the Miami-Dade commissioners and the mayor, there's a money set aside that arts organizations can apply for. And it goes to provide services like ours. And they're another one of the organizations that have been helping us long term for all of this time for 5 years. I want to just say thank you to them. All of these people are community based, and that's why we do what we do and why it's important.
I'm struck by, not struck, I'm proud to be part of this journey with you. But you're like a comet with a bright tail that drags people along the way. And that brightness continues to light a fire underneath them because they see the beautiful work that's being done. It's such an uplifting experience to be able to bring this to children, especially those that appreciate it so much, like the little girl who recognized in you the happiness that you bring. It's enormously rewarding. I want to ask you a question, just turn this slightly in a different direction. And you hear a lot about how, oh, if your child is good at music, they'll be good at math, or they'll be good at, and there's these anecdotal stories and myths that fly around regarding why a music education is so valuable. I mean, people play Beethoven for their children while they're in their cribs in the hopes that they'll, be able to solve physics problems when they're 6. Things like that happen, right? And parents are desperate for their children to be in that top tier. And, music plays a big role. But as a music educator, can you tell us any direct links that are true that maybe are overlooked, or maybe you can shed some light on it for parents, that why music is so important? Why should we continue to teach music, especially to young children?
This question has been going around forever. People many years ago wanted music people and scholars to say that music would make your child smarter. That's dangerous territory. Music, definitely the repetition of it has elements that can help you increase the gift that you have already been given in terms of intelligence. If your ears have been fully functional since 24 weeks in utero. When you come into this part of the world, and I know this for a fact because I did a draft of a prenatal study where the mothers and fathers came to me. We had 12 weeks together. Everybody learned a specific song. We sang it to the child every day, the mother, the father, the siblings. And then when the child was born, I went to their houses and I videotaped their responses when they were in distress. The mother would sing, I recorded. The father would sing, would record. The sibling, or they had to be engaged somewhere with their voice. Every single time, the child calmed down. The music, the familiarity, the tone of the voice provided this security that came from being inside to this new world. I know this for a fact because it happened with my grandson, William, when he was born. And I sang the first song to him in the warmer as he was screaming. And it was the same thing that happened. The auditory process is very powerful. You've already started building those chunks in the brain. And we as individuals and teachers need to keep strengthening that because it's already ahead when the baby is born. So before the sight becomes fully functional and their taste and their touch, all of that, you want to keep this ahead because this is at the crux of all listening for learning. Languages, singing to them in English, singing them to Spanish. What is the best thing to do? Can they process? Are they confused? Interesting questions. Parents should look that up and see what the research says about consistently putting in that language before the age of 2 and seeing what happens in their speaking ability of it later, because you're making like Lego blocks, like patterns, chunking them in there, trying to make them very consistent. You're building the best Lego creation ever in these synapses within your brain, right? So you're trying to make those connections strong. What does that do? It builds the foundation for the rest of learning. Now, will that make you smarter? I don't think it's smarter. I think we want to say that it helps you reach your fullest potential. Do I know what your potential is? No. Do you know what my potential is? No. I don't know what any child's potential is. I want to be about the work of helping that child to build the blocks through music that will help them reach their fullest potential and thrive. Gross motor, fine motor, social emotional, cognitive, language, listening. That's what I want to be about. I know that the music that we do helps to strengthen those connections so that we are helping children. We're unlocking their potential, but I can't quantify what that is. There's other variables that go into that mix that I don't know. The only one I can speak strongly to is music and what effect that does for their total learning when it's in the environment on a consistent basis for those foundational formative years.
This is a wonderful answer because it demystifies certain things that I think can oversell what a music education does. And there's a danger to that because when you don't deliver and suddenly we find ourselves in a position where we're at now, where schools are cutting the arts versus really investing heavily in the arts in the kind of way that an art forward education can do and unlocking potential. I mean, that's music to a parent's ears.
Sure.
having your child be the best version of themselves, and because foundationally it began with an intentional curriculum that uh, confidently and securely fed all of those 6 areas that you mentioned.
Mhm.
And it did it in such a way that is repeatable and across various learning styles and learning abilities and all. It still can bring out something positive and something uh, potential out of a child. I mean, I can't. This is the best endorsement for having this program, a program like this, in the life of every child during that early phase of
Mhm.
development. Now, the foundation does focus a lot on uh, kids up until the age of, did you say 7, 8? Or is it
Kindergarten
closer?
and first grade,
Kindergarten to
because
first grade?
not that we can't do more than that, but here in Dade County, currently, children in second grade are given the opportunity to have a music specialist as a part of the curriculum. Not generally speaking, that's the general rule that occurs. So we fill in the gap before that because that currently isn't offered in most places in this population areas that we go to.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a lot. There's a lot of schools. There's a lot of kids.
True.
That gap is large. It's not a
Yes.
small one, which is why even with the many investors and grants and fans that the program has, it's a drop in the bucket. Being able to bring this to all of these children would be a game changer. It'd be a game changer for the entire educational system, and it would be a real lift, a heavy lift for parents, because during those formative years, there's a lot of parents that the world is harsh. They're not around. They can't be around their child. They want to be, but they can't be. So in loco parentis are these daycare workers and teachers and programs that are available to them. And so having your voice and your intention brought to this group and filling the gap with music, I think is the best use of money. Any argument?
Do I have any argument?
I didn't think so.
I do not. I don't have an argument. I would say, can I bake a loaf of banana bread and come to your meeting and have a little bit more discussion with you and bring my scarves and let you experience what this feels like? And then, you know, I will sing the folding song and you can fold your scarf along with us and get the aha moment of, oh my gosh, that's geometry. That's, all of those things that really don't happen until you actually do it a time or two. Because the first time you do it, you're distracted by, your phone or your child. I mean, you get distracted, so you're not really in it. I was in a training yesterday, and so I was encouraging the people to put their phones down and to keep their ears pointed towards me. And I called them by name. I wanted to know their name. We sang hello to their name. All of those things to try to help them feel just a little bit what that's like from a child's perspective, because basically we have to go back and have that opportunity ourselves, because many of us growing up in the school that I grew up in, I didn't have this opportunity. It wasn't my second grade teacher was my piano teacher. And thankfully, when I was in first grade, the only thing that saved my happiness going to school was my first grade teacher, Mrs. Zinn, had a piano in her room and we sang every day. Oh my gosh, that was like the best, because my mother, father, sisters, and brother had done much too good of a job of teaching me how to read, how to do math. And so I knew all those things. So Mrs. Zinn, she was an amazing individual who played the piano. I thought she was gold, but that's not the current status of things today. And so I don't have any argument for that, but I would love to be able, I'm just send an email, give us a call, however we connect. And how can I come and help you have some joy in 40 minutes of your meeting to have you feel better? I've done that with public officials, men in business suits, and they're all laughing at the end because nobody helps to do that for them when they're in meetings, but we can. It's free. It's free for you to access and have that opportunity. I think we really would be better if we had a little bit more of that spirit in our work environment, maybe. I don't know. I think we have a lot to offer to people.
We do. Definitely this program it's one of the unique programs that I've seen. There are many, many worthy causes that exist, but the fact that you can, it's evocative almost. The ability to reach into adult and child and unlock something that innately they know. It's a place where they can access something. They can access comfort. They can access motivation. They can access the things that are that missing ingredient to allow them to take, the confidence, take another, I'm going to take another step. I'm going to take another step. And it begins with being able to come outside of yourself and do something like take a chance and sing at the top of your lungs in front of everybody else and look around and see that everyone else is lost in that same reverie, because everybody wants that feeling. They're chasing a feeling, and you've got it. Lightning in a bottle. Friends of South Florida Music. It's a tonic for whatever ails you.
There
Right?
you go.
Absolutely. Joy, it's such a pleasure to speak with you. Can you, I know that there's a fundraiser that's coming up. Can you give everybody the date and where it's at and maybe how they can become a part of that fundraiser for you?
We're sponsoring the Rock, Rattle, and Roll event on September the 9th at the Miami Elks Lodge 948 here on Sunset and 103rd Avenue. We will have dinner, 3 hours of music. Our Making Friends ambassadors, that are our students who perform in our group, they're going to be performing with us. Time of dancing. We're giving away some prizes to the adults, families that come dressed the cutest and most stylish for the 50s. The Friends of South Florida Music Jazz and Jeans Band are the ones that will be providing the music. So we have a great group of men and women that come and provide that for us. We thank the Miami Elks Lodge for their support of what we do. We also have an October event that's free called the Jack-O-Lantern Jamboree. You can look on our website and see the events that are coming. And then the next big besides a couple of school programs that will be coming, we do an event called School Jams with Friends, where we actually bring our band into these areas for schools and provide a 45-minute concert where we bring the instrument kit for the students and they get a firsthand taste of what this is like with the accompaniment of the live band. We have that going to be happening. And then our annual Santa's Workshop. Last year, we gave away 600 new Christmas toys to these children. Might have been the only toy that several hundred of them received. But we have a drive where we don't ask for you to give us a toy. We pick the toy, get it wrapped in our wrapping parties, and deliver it. The reason why I don't take toys like Toys for Tots is because when we deliver toys, we give them to the entire class at one time. If all of the students do not receive the same thing, it can create disappointment. It can create sadness, which can lead to hostility. So we take in the same toy for the boys and the same toy for the girls so that when we open them, everybody is equal in what they have received. So we can always accept donations for that. And that'll be the next big thing before the end of the year. We look to give at least that many, if not some additional ones this year, because our population has grown.
That sounds like a lot. What's the website?
Friends, like you're my friend, with an S, friends, the word of, S like Sam, South Florida, F music. So it's all together, friends of sfm.org.
And they can find everything they need
You can
about the
see it all
program
right
there.
there. And
That's
if you
really
can't, you
great.
email info at the same thing, and we'll be happy to help direct you to wherever it is whatever it is your question would be.
Well, Dr. Joy, thank you so much for this conversation. This podcast, Learn, Grow, Teach, Parent, is dedicated to talking with innovative educators and learning about what they're doing to modern education and how they're bringing insights and their experience into helping parents and children become the best that they can. And it's safe to say that both you and your foundation are at the top of that list.
Thank you,
So
Mark.
I thank you very much for this time and wish you the very best.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.